The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. A's baseball, past, present, future. And I have the two host and hostess together. It's been so rare lately. Jerry's been traveling. Nancy's been here and there. So I'd like to introduce ladies first, Nancy Finley, and the gentleman is Jerry Feitelberg. Okay. Welcome back, everybody together.
Yes.
It's nice. It's nice.
Thanks for having us.
Nice. We didn't get to hear much of you last week. We had Lenny Randall. We didn't get to hear much of from you about your trip. And is there anything that 2 or 3 weeks later, since you've been back, that stands out the most in terms of the trip?
Well, the trip was so terrific. We went to we went to 10 countries, and we saw so many different peoples on the east side of Africa. You know, and we had 5 cities in South Africa: Cape Town, Mossel Bay, Durban, Port Elizabeth, Richards Bay, and each one was different. Very nice. Cape Town, of course, you know, is in the midst of a horrible 3-year drought. Yeah. They're going to run out of water in about a month or two. They have no more water.
Why is that? Why? I mean, I know. Why are they running out of water? They have a lot of supply, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think it's raining a lot, Nancy.
It hasn't rained in 3 years.
Really? Aren't they? Are they? So they don't get their water from lakes?
No. Well, their reservoirs they're down to 13%. There's just nothing left.
Okay.
You remember how it was here in California a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
In the midst of the drought. Well, you can magnify that by 10 at this point for those people.
Sure. And they're down to. I think they're allowed about per person 10 or 12 gallons a day, and if you take a shower, it's about 30 to 40 gallons. So you see there's not even enough water to clean and bathe and cook and wash. It's just a horrendous situation. But Cape Town itself is a beautiful, beautiful city. The climate is very, very similar to San Francisco.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was very, very lovely there. Beautiful views, and they have a nice beach area.
They're that far south, and they're similar to us?
Yeah, very similar.
Oh,
it was not as warm as people think it was. And the city of Durban was interesting. That's where Mahatma Gandhi practiced law. Mahatma Gandhi, when he was a young man in South Africa, and he had to face racial discrimination because of the color of his skin. We went to from there. We saw a Zulu tribe. And we found out that the slave traders wanted no parts of the Zulu people. They were too fierce, and they gave the slave traders too much trouble, so they left them alone. And then when we went to Zanzibar, which is a part of Tanzania, and when we were there in Tanzania, we were told we're pronouncing it wrong. The locals pronounce it Tanzania.
Really?
And so in Tanzania, yeah, in Zanzibar, which was beautiful, and we had stopped just outside the local fish market, meat market, produce market, which was very fascinating. And I couldn't get my camera up fast enough. A young man went right by on a bicycle, and he's wearing a Golden State Warrior jersey, number 30, Curry. And Ralph, because you're a baseball guy, when we were inside the meat market, there was a guy wearing a Boston Red Sox T-shirt. It said Red Sox on it. So I took a picture of that, too. So,
you think he was a local?
Oh, yeah, they're a local. Who knows where they got this stuff?
Yeah.
But in Zanzibar, there's an Anglican church, and that stands over where the slaves were bought and sold. And they have monuments to the slave, to the people, and you see the statues of the people that were in chains. And then we went downstairs into a dungeon where they kept the slaves until they were shipped out. And they would put 80 people in this small room with no place for urination or to take care of any bodily functions. And it was dark and it's hot, and they must have suffered so terribly before they were taken away.
Jerry,
And it was huge fights.
Wow.
It was huge fights between the Portuguese, who were involved in the slave trade, and the Arabs, who were involved in the slave trade, and later the Brits, who were involved in the slave trade.
See, I always thought it was off West Africa, not East Africa. I didn't know that.
East Africa too, yeah. No, East Africa as well as West Africa.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
wow.
Interesting what you say. The church standing above all of this, looking down.
They built it over. They built it over. I think the slave trade ended in 1873, and then the Brits were there, and they built the church over that area.
And that late.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting.
Shameful.
And
yeah,
so
I can imagine. I can imagine. Any one thing, though, Jerry, if you had to pick one thing that's going to be in your mind first and foremost about the trip.
I met one couple from Houston. They were huge Houston Astro fans. They were wearing their caps and T-shirts, and they were the only people I could talk baseball with on the whole trip.
And they would have been proud.
That itself. As I said on another podcast, I want to inform the world of this. The proper way of pronouncing it is Houston, like they do in New York on Houston Street. It's spelled the same
Texas.
way.
It's Houston.
And but it's Texas. They pronounce it wrong. You're a Texan.
That was Sam Houston's name. That's how he pronounced it.
Yeah. They say things
It
different.
amazes me. I want Nancy, because she is a Texan, a prominent Texan, to start something where, call people's attention to it. The powers that be, perhaps you can change it to Houston. For me?
Oh, well, I'd like to see someone who show up in DWF Airport and ask what's the way to Houston, See the look on their face.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of education needs to come to Texans.
You know what, though? I have to say
Houston is just one of them.
I won't say this. Now, you all know the planets we grew up with, right? The 9 planets?
Yes.
Okay. I had a teacher down there, and I learned the planet names. I always say the right way. But when I came out here, one planet in particular was pronounced another way for politically correctness. And I had no idea that my teacher was saying it wrong according to everyone. I'll let you guess what planet that was.
With a letter U
or Uranus?
Yeah, okay,
Uranus.
Yeah. That was it. The teacher.
Uranus.
Okay, Uranus.
Uranus. Absolutely.
Uranus.
That's the way it's pronounced.
It's Uranus. But
Ralph, you bring up something about local pronunciations. Here in Alameda, we have 2 examples of how things are not pronounced the way they should be. For example, old-time Alamedans will pronounce Buena Vista as Buena Vista. They pronounce it
really?
Pronounce it Buena Vista. And Versailles, there's Versailles Avenue, and the old-timers call it Versailles. That's just the way it is.
Okay.
Okay, well,
they have
2 different languages, because Spanish and French are foreign to Alamedans.
So you got Buena Vista and Versailles.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Buena Vista means good view, incidentally, as you may or may not know. And the one thing about driving down Buena Vista, there are very few good views off of Buena Vista. I don't know why it was named Buena Vista.
Have they built any?
I'm 2 blocks over on Lincoln, and there you go.
I've wondered what Alameda was like before the development, like when you had the Gold Coast and maybe a few markets.
Oh, there was a time Alameda was like this, like a resort area for San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like it.
Prior to the 1906 earthquake, the people in San Francisco would come to Alameda for the summer.
Really?
And then after the 06 earthquake, Alameda did not suffer a lot of damage because it's on a sandbar, and it took the earthquake very well, whereas homes were destroyed in San Francisco. And a lot of the people who had their summer homes in Alameda said, well, we're just going to move over here from San Francisco, and they did.
Wow. So the sandbar is like being sort of, I guess, on a hard surface?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, now you got a lot of Alamedas built in and filled in land. They've added to it. South Shore and I think the parts of Bay Farm Island are all filled in land.
I think from Otis on over by the lagoon is man-made, and
I heard that. Yeah. But it's just beautiful.
And by the way, because I've always laughed at the lagoon, like the lagoon, they have cleaned up the Alameda Lagoon. I drove by there the other day. I even took a picture or two.
Good.
It is, the water is pristine.
Oh,
if you could remember how it was just all green and algae and what have you, whatever they did to clean it up, hats off to the powers that be in Alameda, California.
Yes.
Yeah,
hey guys, let's talk a little baseball if you don't mind.
Go. I'm looking. By the way, I'm looking at the lagoon from my little office right now. My home is right on the lagoon. How's that?
Wow.
Are you here now in Alameda?
I'm in Alameda today. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
I know it's beautiful. It's beautiful all over here today.
Dog City. My daughter's company sent her to Hawaii for a photo shoot this weekend.
A photo shoot?
Yeah.
For the company or her?
For the company.
What company is it?
She works for Square, a tech company in San Francisco.
Why are they taking pictures over there?
They use it for their marketing department and small business. So I don't know what she's going to do. So she's there until Monday.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. Well,
they want pictures of the mountains? Okay. Lava? Sure. Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. I took her to the airport.
Oh, what nice. And Oakland?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Oh, perfect location. By the way, when I was at, I was invited to the Fan Fest for the A's, and they had it at Jack London Square. Wow. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, all the food and drinks were free.
Oh, really?
And
nice.
Autographs were free. Mm-hmm. And it was twice the amount of last year, I hear. And I could tell by the people who were there last year. And I've never seen so many smiling people and just families, pets. Pets were well behaved. And you were looking out on the water there. And so I'm just thinking, wow.
What a beautiful place to have a ballpark.
Yeah, it would be nice. Might be. Mayor Schaaf wants it at Howard Terminal.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, that's her location, and the A's might have to go there.
I have to tell you something.
How bad would that be? What are the downsides?
Yeah, I hope they work. I hope they are willing to work. They should be popping champagne that Oakland said is going to stay here.
Oh, yeah, but getting people 12th Street or from the BART over to the ballpark is going to have to be worked on. And it can be done if they have a will. If they want to do it, it will be done.
Yeah, but you know what Morgan said? My planning commissioner husband, he said, well, there's always the eminent domain way to go. And I thought, what? And he said a lot of cities don't like to, well, they don't want to stoop to that, but he said that that is a way to force it if needed. You don't want to have to go that way.
Hey, listen, 60 years later, since the Giants and Dodgers moved, there is a contingent of folks that are still crying their eyes out that Brooklyn didn't get eminent domain. and
what?
they would have kept the name.
It's a little late with statute limitations here. Wow.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
They're not about to go back and get it. I think that's a great idea. Any team that moves has to give up the name. The Cleveland Browns, all these teams that have bounced around, carpetbagging around the country. The Braves, the Braves from where you were born and raised.
Yeah, they were the Boston Braves. That should have stayed in Boston. They should be the Atlanta Crackers, or that's what they used to be in the Sally League many, many years ago. But I don't think that would apply
Really?
these.
They were there with the Red Sox?
Oh yeah. They were there before the Red Sox. The
National League team.
The Braves started in 1876, one of the first teams in the National League, and the Red Sox didn't come into the American League until 1901.
Oh my!
They're one of the few teams that have moved twice, two different franchises, and Charlie's team.
Well, the
Nancy's team, Carl's team.
Where else did the Braves
They're one of them, too.
The
Braves went to Milwaukee. They were there for 13 years.
Oh, okay.
When they went to Milwaukee, they virtually left in spring training in 1953 and went from Boston to Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And they set attendance records. They were the first team in the National League to draw over 2 million people. And they thought everything was wonderful.
Took them there.
Wow.
Lou Perini took them there. And they had a thing, and all the local bars would get together because the Braves were letting the fans bring in their own beer, and Milwaukee's a big beer town.
Oh, well, yeah.
And then they said, "No, we're going to sell the beer ourselves." And you know what? Their attendance dropped because the prices got too heavy. And then after the honeymoon was over, and after 13 years, and they won a world championship, they went to Atlanta. Part of the problem was that their proximity to Chicago, and they weren't getting the TV revenues, and the money was down in Atlanta. They had the whole southern region, so they went there because of money.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you something interesting, Nancy, and I'm sure you know this, Jerry. As long as the Braves were in Milwaukee, they never had a losing season. And conversely, as long as the A's were in Kansas City, they never had a winning season.
Mm-hmm.
And, just wanted to say that, but they sure built that team to the point that they were almost instant contenders when they came from Kansas City to Oakland.
67.
Got good.
Yeah, in 67, Al Dart, the first time we had him, apparently predicted they would be in the playoffs by 71. He was right.
Okay. I have a little game I want to play with myself, if you will. I want to ask Jerry first, when was the first time that you said the words or envisioned the words or read about the team? Was it Oakland A's? It was 1968 when they came out here. I remember where I was when I saw the newspaper with the uniforms. I was in the barbershop at the Travis Air Force Base. I was in the Air Force then. Where were you, Jerry, when the whole Oakland A's came into existence in your head?
Yeah, I was living in Los Angeles, Ralph. I had moved out to Los Angeles in 1967. The A's were still in Kansas City. And probably the most explosive thing that happened in 1968 that put the A's in my brain was Jim Catfish Hunter's perfect game in 1968 at the Coliseum, where, probably there was maybe 8,000 people there watching the game. But if you ask people if they were there, you'll have 40,000 people tell you that they were at the game that day. But
I know. Thank you. Yes, I've had the same thing happen.
Were you at that game, Nancy?
No.
You were just a kid?
No, I wasn't. I couldn't go to that game. Dad was able to fly me out here, but it had to be cut short because Mom was screaming at him. And, yeah, it was. I wanted to live with Dad, and I wasn't of age yet to decide that, apparently.
Right.
Thank goodness Dad just gained sole custody. But yeah, I had to go back to Dallas, which was not a fun place at that time. I wanted to be where the team was, because that's what I remembered. By the way, on my website, my son just helped me put up a YouTube that shows Harvey coming out of the ground.
No kidding. Fabulous.
It makes the hair on my neck go up because it's exactly what I remembered sitting to and covering my eyes because I knew he was coming up. I mean, and it's in color.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Nancy, I'm going to send you a link to this show.
Good.
And you can post the link on your website.
I'll have Doug do that. My son does this for me. He says, "Okay, Mom, what do you want to post?" So we do it.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. But
okay, let's talk about that first year of moving out here.
Now, Dad came out in '67 to prepare with Rick Mundy. They lived together, and they tried to do some speaking to help market the team here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rick Mundy, who was traded for Kenny Holtzman.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Memory serves. You know, it wasn't just building that team, and I think I mentioned this a week or so ago somewhere. It was tinkering with it to get it just right, and each year when they were champions, those 5 years, they changed the team appreciatively. I mean, the basic guys were there, the Reggie Jackson, the Campaneras, the Bando, the Green, but, you know, guys like Epstein became Fosse, that kind of thing.
Oh, Duncan. I thought Duncan. Fosse took over for Duncan. Right.
Well, but I mean, it was the year that Epstein left.
Right.
And they both, if I'm not mistaken, they played a little first base. I know Tennis played a little first base. Mm-hmm. He was a catcher as well. I want to talk about Dick Green. What are your memories, Nancy, of him? And I'll ask Jerry the same question. I think he was the heart and soul of it in some way, the middle infielder who was a terrific fielder.
He was Kansas City, and when I came out here to live, I remember telling Dad, I want to see Dick Green. I gave these demands right away. And the four, I remember Bando, Green, Hunter, and Campaneras. Those were the guys I remember from Kansas City. And Green's first wife tried to babysit me. I think she wanted too much money in Kansas City. But that's just so long ago. I have such fond feelings for them, and that shows in that picture. That, I kept that. Didn't realize that it hadn't been posted anywhere, but, you know, that's okay. But I just really have fond memories for these guys.
Nice.
Well, you know, Dick Green was really underappreciated. I really think he was, because when they mention all the talk about the A's of the late 60s, early 70s, you know, that 5-year run that they had, you know, they talk about Jackson, they talk about Gene Tennis, Joe Rudy, Sal Bando, and Campaneras. And maybe we'll get around to Dick Green. Very rarely, but talk about the other guys first.
I agree.
Well, a team has to be strong up the middle to be great.
He was solid.
And he was solid. They always had somebody in center field. When Monday left, they had Billy North. They had Angel Manguel over the years. They just had a cast of supporting guys that was terrific. You'd have to classify Dick Green as a supporting ball player. He certainly wasn't a superstar, but boy, could he field. And I can't think of his name right now. There's another second baseman that came in the 80s. or 90s rather, who was from the same town in Iowa or that Dick Green was from, and he was a great fielding second baseman. Later on, I blank on the name right now, but that'll happen.
Well, Green
you think of someone like Mark Ellis?
Yes, it was. It was Mark Ellis. Boy, Jerry, you have an encyclopedic mind.
Yeah.
Thank you, kind sir.
Our guys didn't, what's the word? They got along like, well, they were like family. You better not talk about them behind their backs, but yet, as you know, they fought among themselves.
Sure. Swinging ace.
Yeah. But Dick Green would remind me, I guess, of the Big Brother.
Oh, nice.
Like the one who didn't fight or stayed out of it, tried to talk everyone down. But
right.
But they didn't. If they couldn't use code, then they just knew what each other was thinking. That's the point they came to. And it's hard when you do that with newcomers.
Yeah, but they were a team, and the thing is, when they're a team and they play together, they don't have to talk to each other. They know what they're going to do. They anticipate the actions of the other player, and that's what makes them so good. And I'm going to give you a basketball example. Many, many years ago, when I was in L.A., one of my friends, we had a local pharmacy meeting, and he brought John Wooden over to speak to us, the great Wizard of Westward. And John Wooden was telling us that his favorite team was the one that won the first national championship for UCLA, I think it was in 1965. And the tallest player on the team was Fred Slaughter, who was 6'5" tall. And they won a national championship because the way they played was they worked like the fingers on your hands. You didn't have to think about it. They all worked together that way. And that's the way the championship team that the A's had from 1971 through 75, they worked the same way too. You just didn't have to tell them what to do. They knew what to do.
Yeah, thank you. It was people. They just.
Well, that comes in recruiting, and in this case, signing these players. Charlie and whomever helped him sign these players really had an idea of, blending personalities and what have you.
Well, I know he asked Dad to go and take a look at how they played and give him his opinion. But yet we had in Kansas City. I remember hearing someone named Bauer helped with scouting.
Hank Bauer?
Was it Hank?
Yeah, it was Hank Bauer was the manager at one time.
Maybe that's why I heard the name. But it doesn't mean they were our scouts, because we didn't just. I know how Dad and Charlie worked. They didn't use scouts and take their word for it. They did it. They went out themselves. We had someone, by the way, in the yearbook out here, and I saw it said he was head of the scouting department. No, he really wasn't. He picked players up at the airport most of the time. I know. It's just that we put that because it looked good.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But that's one of our secrets there. But I think Charlie he just wanted to be confirmed with his thoughts. He never made a decision just on his own without talking to anyone. But he wanted to hear what certain people had to say. Others he didn't care. And I know with Dad, he would ask him to take a look at him, write some figures down. What do you think? And he would do the same thing with Pat Friday, who he brought down from his insurance company, but Pat didn't want to be in baseball. He went back soon after. And he must have done that with Hank Bauer.
You know, it's kind of interesting. I wonder what Charlie and Carl would think of the analytics that's going on today, where they have all these numbers like WAR, wins above replacement, and UZR.
We use stats. I mean, we wrote
whatever that is. They have all these metrics, and and when I talked to a scout a few years ago, and he showed me how they grade the players. They grade them on a scale of 20 to 80. And when he said a young player gets a score of 50 above, they look at it. And he showed me the scouting reports on Randy Johnson and Jeff Kent, because he scouted them. So those were interesting. But the one thing that scouts don't have on there, and they don't grade, and there's no benchmark for it. They can't grade desire, or what we would call heart of a player. They just don't know what's beating the guy's chest. And these are the things. Yeah. How much does the kid want it? How much desire do they have to succeed? How hard are they willing to work to get to the next level?
That's something Charlie could see in their eyes. And
that's the key. You just hit the key that made Charlie Finley different than any other owner. He knew. He knew, and he had that ability.
Because there's that, when you hire someone, you want to know. I mean, you're wondering, does this person have common sense? And then is this person going to be high energy or care about the business as much as I do? Be responsible, all that stuff. And it's hard to know that in an interview. But with
it's hard to know who's going to come back for the inevitable adversity that the game and life brings. There's no
you get injured.
That's right.
And you blow out an elbow when you're 20 years old. And what do you do then? How hard do you want to work to come back from it all?
There can't be any of this. Well, my wife says she wants me home by 10 p.m. every night. That kind of thing.
Right. Charlie himself came back from adversity. When if a lot of people don't know that Charlie had, what was it? Was it tuberculosis where he was confined to a hospital for months and months?
They put them in those places to recover.
A sanitarium.
Yes.
Is that what they called it? Red Shandings was in one for a while with tuberculosis. But my point is, when he was there, his genius came into play, which made all of this possible. He invented something called group disability for doctors, and he sold it through the medical association, and with the idea that he talked to doctors, and he'd ask them what would happen if you lost a hand. How could you operate this, that, and the other thing? Or any sort of disability.
Or your family.
And they ate it up. Yep. They had it as group insurance. And so he didn't just lie there and wallow in his mire.
Oh, he couldn't. His mind was too active. His mind was like when he tried to go to sleep many times, he couldn't couldn't stop his thoughts. I remember.
I'm that way.
Dad used to tell me that.
Oh, I can't start thinking. Wait a minute, there's a difference.
Oh, and so he had time on his hands, and he couldn't stand to just not think of anything. So he started. So who was there? Doctors and nurses. So he started interviewing. He started asking a lot of questions, which is also something he liked, was how inquisitive is the person.
And that transcends into scouting players, finding out about them, asking questions, not being afraid, afraid to.
You ask, and
ask something personal, for instance.
We did stats. I remember Dad's notes with stats. We did those, and those are necessary to have balance in a game, but they weren't the all. It wasn't the total. And now it sounds algebraic. Am I right? Has it gone over into these algebraic formulas?
You know,
sometimes it has.
The teams today.
No question.
The teams today look at all that stuff. You know, when they have a free agent like the Red Sox did with Pablo Sandoval a couple years ago, there was a guy who had won 3 world championships with the Giants. Was a pretty decent hitter. He was going to a hitter's park in Boston, and guess what happens? They gave him a 5-year contract for $95 million, and he was a total bust. So go figure. You just never know. You just did Pablo think that now I got all this $95 million, I'm set for life, I don't have to work hard? And
who was his agent? Who was his agent?
I think his brother was.
Interesting, because I remember hearing how some people who Charlie should have hired during the games were people would say, "Oh, he's crazy not to sign them," and come to find out, they didn't do as well as they had been. I don't know how he knew that, but then there were some older people he signed, and he was warned about them, and they came through for us. So,
sure.
But I don't know what happened with that man unless they were just
Another thing that if Charlie were around today, we wouldn't have 100 free agents sitting on the sidelines because they wouldn't be getting multiple-year contracts. Charlie believed in one-year contracts. Everybody gets 1 year, and then everybody's a free agent. You sign your own players or sign someone else. But you get rewarded for what you did the last year.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a bad year, don't expect a pay increase. And if you have a good year, then you should get a pay increase.
That's how he was raised. You get paid for a good job.
Now players are going to get. There's a guy out there, J.D. Martinez, is an offer on the table, 5 years for $125 million.
Oh, what?
5 years, and they're hedging, and he says he's tired of dicking around with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
So,
what's he going to do?
What are you going to do? And if he goes there and he's a bust, they still owe him the money, just like they did with Sandoval.
Oh.
Come on, 120.
Oh.
They're just throwing these numbers out.
And
I remember. I'm going to tell you a story about George Weiss. The great writer Leonard Copper told me the story many years ago. You remember Mickey Mantle in 1956 won the Triple Crown. He hit .356, had 52 homers, some phenomenal numbers.
Yes. Great man.
The next year, he dropped to about .325, and when he went in to renew his contract with Weiss wanted to cut his salary. They said, "What do you mean you cut my salary?" He said, "Well, you didn't win the Triple Crown. Like, you're supposed to win it every year." But that's what they had to deal with. The players had to deal with back then in those days when they had the reserve clause and they couldn't sell their services to the highest bidder. But if everybody had a 1-year contract, everybody would be a free agent at the end of the year, and the owners would have to scramble to put together a team from the whole pool of players, not just a few, but everybody.
The only reason that didn't go is because Bowie Kuhn talked the other owners into not voting for it out of ego. He just wanted to make sure that he didn't let Charlie get the wins. And interesting, though, because after Charlie left baseball, pretty soon Bowie Kuhn was out. He was out. Oh, yeah. And I often wonder if his fight with Charlie kept him relevant.
Did Charlie ever meet Marvin Miller face to face?
Yes, they respected each other.
That's an interesting position. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
He respected Marvin Miller for what he did, and Marvin respected Charlie for what he did.
Yes, and here in Marvin Miller's book, he says that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
Bowie Kuhn was the just like all the commissioners are, even Rob Manfred and Bud Selig. They're working for the benefit of the owners, not
absolutely
the betterment of baseball, but the betterment of the owners.
Miller
and the struggle between the players and the owners has been going on since the 1890s. and there's
Well,
been
we
struggles.
were, I guess, the left-out owner or like the oddball owner.
But now the owners are making so much money. They are making money, believe it or not.
Of course you believe it.
Miller
You're
said
kidding?
that too.
TV contracts and the merchandise. And
I just read in the paper today that in the Chronicle that MLB sold something to Disney, and each team is getting $50 million as revenue sharing as a result of the sale of that entity. It was some high-tech entity that they sold.
Really?
And because the A's revenue sharing was down 25% last year, it's going to be down another 25% this year. And they get 2 more years of revenue sharing.
They need to make
Which means that John Fisher is going and Billy Beane are going to have to put a product on the field. And the reason that you had so many people at FanFest is that they like the young players that the A's have coming up, and they think that the A's are going to turn the corner and start to become winners again.
Let me ask you.
I couldn't agree with you more. They've got a nice group of young players, and
I'd like your
some
opinion.
Question marks on the pitching staff, but a big upside on the pitching staff. They had 2 guys who were doing very, very well last year, and we're going to talk about the current team next week. We're going to run that because the week after that starts spring training. So we want to give you a total rundown on the A's and their chances this year. I think they can be competitive. And the one guy that I like, one prospect that I like more than the others is a fellow named Fowler, who was traded.
Dexter Fowler. Not Dexter
Fowler, who was traded from the Yankees in that Gray deal,
Sonny Gray. He's a center fielder, and he had an injury, and he might be ready to play.
Now, I get mixed feelings. Is it
Jerry and I agreed months ago that trading Gray really broke the back of their pitching staff, and now that it looks like this guy's healthy again, we could get something from that deal, and
I hope,
he could be he's the kind of guy, he leads off, he's fast as hell. He was the guy that on the first day of the season ran into that piece of equipment in Chicago that was right by the stands, tore up his knee, is suing the White Sox in the stadium for not padding that thing. And he seems to be rehabbed, and I like that. I like the idea that Chapman is at third. I also like the idea that Rajah Davis will be DHing, and they just picked up
Chris Davis.
Yes, and Moss as well. I'm kind of excited. It's spring. If you can't be excited about your team in spring, when can you be?
I'm glad to hear you say that, because some people say to have all young players can be a detriment, and that's what I didn't understand, because that's what we had in the late 70s when we were rebuilding.
Absolutely. Very good point.
So, I think, it's almost as if someone wants to criticize, they'll criticize. So you can't get around it. But I'm pleased to hear you say that about all these young players.
Yeah, they have.
It's going to be an interesting year because, again, as Jerry says, they're living each year with less and less of a subsidy from the Major League Baseball, and that wasn't put in because Oakland is a small team market. It isn't a small town market. It really isn't. It was put in because of the dilapidated stadium that they have to play in. And
I can't believe
as Jerry says,
Kansas City's small.
There's hope for the future with that too, because if the mayor is behind it, that's a good thing. She was never behind the Laney College location.
No, she wanted Howard Terminal.
She didn't.
And now with Laney off, Dave, they still may be working on Laney. Dave Cabell preferred that. They preferred that, but they may have to either sweeten it up or increase the amount of money. Who knows what they're going to do? But it could be very, very expensive.
Was Dave Cabell blindsided by all of that?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he thought he had the ducks in a row, but apparently they didn't. They didn't have the faculty or the students on board with that with the stadium.
Yeah, and you want everyone on board. You don't want to. Well, like I said, Morgan said they can do eminent domain, but that's a last resort.
Yeah. I don't think they're in danger of losing the team. I think people are trying to work out.
Oh, I mean
it's been established they're going to be here. You got the mayor behind them.
No, the location, yeah. But the location, if they really wanted that, they could always do what Morgan suggested.
Remember, they're losing the Raiders, and the East Bay is losing the Raiders, and they're losing Oakland. They're losing the Warriors.
They're losing the Warriors.
Just show your excitement, City. Yeah.
If you're a baseball fan, if you're an A's fan, that's got to ring true to you from that standpoint.
Oh yeah. And I want the county and the city to look very excited about this. Just the fact that they're staying and looking,
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Every time they go out and they're on TV, and they're on TV for 162 games, it's the town is mentioned. It's the Oakland A's against the New York Yankees or whatever. They get all that free advertising. They didn't get it with the Warriors because it was the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors didn't want to be known in Oakland until after they got quite successful, and then it was too late to change the name to the Oakland Warriors. But what can I tell you?
I knew if the team moved that they would never have another team that said Oakland, even if they got another one, which I don't think they could. I knew that they wouldn't have that chance again because it was just how things worked out with the Oakland Raiders, and this stadium being built by Davis and his friends. So I could tell that they wouldn't have this opportunity again.
Okay, here it is. Dustin Fowler. He's going to be 23 years old, and he has 95 days of Major League service. And he was acquired for the Yankees with Jorge Mateo and I think a minor league pitcher, James Kaprelian, for Sonny Gray, and $1.5 million. That the A's got an international bonus slot. Not bad, July 31st. So.
Bad, yeah.
Hope for the future, and the future could be now. Wouldn't it be something if they put? And it isn't unheard of in the National Hockey League right now. A first-year expansion team is in first place.
The Golden Knights.
Golden Knights was in Nashville or wherever it is.
Where is that?
I can't think of where it is, but they're in first place. So one never knows. They play the games on the field, not on paper, and 7 more days, pitches and catches.
So you got that right.
Next week, we will be back next week, and
closer to the start.
It will be fun then because it is every week for us. Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Thank you, Ralph. Cool. Always a pleasure.
I want to ask everybody out there whether or not they enjoy our offerings, just that we try. How about that? Do us a solid. Box up some lightly used children's books and take them to the Head Start program wherever you live, wherever you're listening. There's a Head Start program that needs books. Kids need to read. They need to develop a passion. They need to get their noses out of the devices and the games and what have you. And most of all, they need to become school ready. And in today's day and age, unless you go into kindergarten with some social skills, some reading skills, and a little bit of math, you're going to fall behind. And once you fall behind, it becomes very difficult to catch up. So the kids that need these books are having a hard time in the first place vis-a-vis the program. So do that for me. Box them up, bring them over there, have neighborhood drives and what have you, and that would make me feel better. As for the Oakland A's, I'm feeling good about them these days.
Great.
Can't wait for next week, Jerry.
Yes.
Can't wait for next week, Nancy.
Okay.
Hope you had as much fun as I did, and we'll be back then.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
Ralph. Thank you so much.
Adios, everybody. Be well.
Bye-bye now.